Hello. Welcome back to more stories with Mr. Faber. I am your host, Mr. Faber, and we are here with another great part to our Adventures of Atticus story. Yes, sirree, I believe we have reached part 8 now. Wow. I'm telling you, we finally get into the really exciting stuff. Alright, so before we get started, just another reminder, if you didn't watch the first 7 parts, you're going to want to stop this movie, go back, watch the other 7 parts, and then come back to this video. Alright, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our next part with Atticus fighting Gundral Michael. Now, you may remember that the last scene that we had was Atticus standing between the White City and this castle that stood at the base of this volcano where he knew Gundral Michael was, and an army of women and warriors ready to fight. Atticus started taking all that metal that had been exploded and made himself this metal armor that sort of covered over his entire being, but not this hard, rigid armor, but little tiny scales of armor that he melded into himself so that he could easily move around. He grabbed his swords, he got on his surfboard, and out he started coasting towards this Gundralian army that was being formed by Gundral Michael as they spoke. The warriors were right behind Atticus, and the women who wanted to fight right behind them. But Atticus had no intention of having an epic battle. No, he was going to destroy this army by himself. He had his swords out, but he also had that metal that he gathered, some leftover metals, and he started forming little tiny blades until the air around him was thick with them. I mean, maybe thousands of them. And as he got close to this army, he looked straight ahead, his sword's out like he was ready to fight, but instead of fighting, these blades shot out and cut down 1,000 of them at once. Well, there was more than 1,000. And Gundral Michael's plan was to use overwhelming odds. He knew that Atticus could defeat those Gundralians. He knew that the warriors had learned how to fight and could perhaps defeat them, but he was going to swarm them with his Gundralians and defeat them that way. So even though Atticus had this amazing power of chopping them down by the thousands, he still had to fight. Plus, that internal Gundralian stuff was lava, so a lot of times when his swords went in, his little blades went in, they'd get too hot from the lava that was inside the Gundralian, and he would have to let them go. And so he ended up having to fight too. And of course, at the beginning, the warriors who had been training, they were kind of angry at Atticus. They're like, "Come on, just let us fight. Why aren't you letting us fight?" And so finally, it got to the point where Atticus couldn't hold back the waves anymore, and they got to fight. And of course, they weren't scared. They were like, "Yes, we get to use our new strength that we've been taught." And so they're starting to fight. Atticus is out there fighting too. He's doing all these awesome moves. He's got a great sword. He's got a big great sword that he uses. He's got 2 samurai swords, and he's got 10 daggers around his waist. And so a lot of the song, as I'm narrating along, you can sort of picture the different things that he uses. He usually throws the daggers, and then has them come back with his mind. He sometimes uses the samurai swords when he needs to be moving quickly, but slowly as these Gundralians get bigger and bigger, he's using more and more his great sword. Now, while this is happening, all of a sudden Atticus notices something off to the side. It's still near the volcano, and that's what he notices, is that he notices an ice patch, maybe a half a kilometer long, and it just seems to be like out of nowhere. It's like a warm area. They're in a warm tropical area-ish, and next to a volcano no less, and there's this ice patch. And so Atticus is like, "I'm gonna go check this out." And the warriors are like, "We could fight all day." And Atticus is like, "Okay, well, don't die, and I'll be right back." And so he goes off to the side to see what this ice patch is all about. And as he gets close to it, he sees there's one person that seems to be at the epicenter of this ice patch. And so he cautiously walks forward, and as he does, he begins to notice that there's this girl, and she's dressed in white. She looks familiar, but Atticus can't put a pin on it. And she looks to be about 18, 19 years old. And as he gets closer, he's like, "Who are you?" And she goes, I'm your daughter." And Atticus is like, "I don't have any children." And she's like, "Of course you do. You have 500 million children." And Atticus is like, "Right, you're one of those guys. What are you doing out here? Why are you here even?" She said, "Well, you guys were going to go back to planet Earth, and I'm kind of weird because I don't fit in with everyone else, and I thought maybe if I snuck on board with you, then I could see your home planet." And Atticus is like, why are you weird?" And she's like, "Well, whenever I try to use my metal power, it doesn't work, and instead all this ice comes out." And Atticus thought to himself, a mutation. And he said, well, what's your name? If you're my daughter, I should know that at least." She said, "Nostalgia." And Atticus said, "Okay, Nostalgia. I can't. There's a crazy guy right over there. There's a crazy guy over there. He's trying to destroy everyone by controlling the world with lava. I can't have you here. You need to go back to the city." And she's like, No, Dad, I want to help you." And Atticus is like, No, I cannot be worrying about a daughter while there's a crazy guy. And she's like, "Dad, please." And Atticus, he kept getting thrown every time she called him Dad. He's like, "No, young lady, please, just go back to the city, okay?" And she's like, so she started heading back to the city, and Atticus started heading back to the battlefield, now more than ever focused and determined to destroy Gundrel Michael, because not only did he have, people that were looking up to him, but he also had a daughter that he had to be taken care of too. So he got back to the battle, but as he did, he's pulling up more and more of these raw metals deposits underneath the ground. So he's got all this metal so that he can continue doing his cut down thing, even if he has to, use it once and then, create more metal, create more of the blades. And so he gets back into the battle, and even though the warriors are glad they got to fight, they're kind of glad he's back, because you can see that these Gundrolians, which used to be about maybe a little shorter than I would be, they've started to get taller and taller, because as they get closer and closer to the castle, Gundrel Michael is getting more and more nervous, and he's making them bigger and bigger. Now they're about twice as big as a normal human being, and so Atticus coming back to the battle is definitely a welcome sight for everyone. And so he's using now, at this point, he's sort of discarded the samurai swords, and he's using his great sword and mostly his power. And so he's just sort of using it, and you can sort of see, if you were looking from the sky, how this was looking, you could see Atticus and this cloud of metal, and the cloud of metal would just sort of shoot out into the Gundrolian crowd, and then sort of sweep back around and come back, and you just sort of see the sweeping cloud motion as Atticus is just cutting away these Gundrolians. Well, there are still tens of thousands of them between them and the castle, but Atticus is starting to notice that there's no more new Gundrolians being made, and Atticus is a little nervous because he doesn't view Gundrel Michael as this guy that just gives up. And so he's continuing to cut down the last of these Gundrolians, and he's sort of whispering to the warriors. He's saying, "You guys might need to go back home." And they're like, "No, we would never abandon you, Atticus. We are loyal to you," and, blah, 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 all that stuff to, say that they're going to stay with them. And the women that are intermixed with this group are like, "Yeah, we're with you, Atticus." And Atticus is like, "Okay, but I'm just saying, you're okay to turn back, because I think I got this." And they're like, No, we're gonna fight. And so all of a sudden they start seeing this volcano sort of pick up, burp, and then boom, out of the volcano crater comes this lava monster that isn't quite the size of those metal robots Atticus made back at home on the first planet, but pretty close, with this giant blade sword, lava sword and lava shield. And so Atticus says, "You guys should go back." And they're like, "Yeah, okay, we're going to go back." And they start running back. Atticus starts making his own metal monster, very crude, not like a robot or anything, but just something he directly controls. And these two giant monsters start having this epic battling it out. Gundrel Michael's on top of his castle going, "Give up, Atticus! Give up now!" And Atticus says, "Never!" And this thing is starting to lose, and all of a sudden, Gundrel Michael stunned, stops, and he looks down and he sees there's something in his heart, and he collapses. And behind him is standing Nostalgia, who has an ice pick and has stabbed Gundrel Michael. And so Gundrel Michael is gone, and the women of the third planet are free. Well, it was time for celebration. And Atticus had just seen his ship land near the White City. He got back there and saw that Zales and Poseidon, because they had been bored for like the first couple weeks of waiting for Atticus, had decided to set up the teleportation pads all around the planet of the first planet in the society of the second planet, and had just set it up in the third planet. And so immediately people started teleporting in from these other planets, and the mixture of these three cultures was beautiful, because of course we got the first culture, Atticus's children, which were very young and naive, and even though they were young and naive, they brought happiness and they brought beauty, because they didn't use their mental power to I mean, they did build houses, but mostly they used their power to share beauty. So in art or in dance or whatever it was, even in clothing. The second society brought the second group, the clones, brought a sense of culture, because they were clones from the planet Earth, and so they had this idea of culture that they brought. And then of course the planet of women were probably the most advanced society that humanity had ever seen. So all three of these groups were getting together. They were so happy. They were celebrating. You could hear that celebration kind of music in the background, and they were all intent on Atticus sticking around and being their leader, and Zales and Poseidon too, for that matter. Atticus was telling them, yes, that's fine, but we're going to go back to planet Earth. We want to see our families one more time, maybe even bring them back here. So while we're gone, you need to set up this idea, like these representatives for your different peoples, and also learn to work together, because even though there's this happy, joyful moment, you're going to get frustrated with each other. So learn to work together, and when I come back, then we will I'll lead, and life will be great. So they're really excited. Nostalgia, she's sort of like the hero of the party, because she killed Gundrel Michael, but they found out later. They went back to get the body later, and they found out that Gundrel Michael wasn't actually dead. Unfortunately, Nostalgia didn't understand the anatomy things too well of the human body, and so when she went to stab Gundrel Michael, she hit him in the right side of the chest instead of the left, which is where your heart is. And so he collapsed because he was stunned by being stabbed, but he didn't die. And so after they left, Gundrel Michael escaped. He got on his ship and he escaped. And actually, that was the concern that Atticus had, because they were still having a party, they were having fun and everything like that. He's smiling and everything, but he's a little concerned because that ship went out somewhere. It didn't go to any of the three planets. It followed that black ship back home. So Atticus is a little concerned with what Gundrel Michael has in store. But nevertheless, they're going to celebrate for that day. Gather things, get things together. Zales is making sure that the teleportation things are working well, and they are having their day of happiness, because all three planets have been freed and have been saved by Atticus, and so it's just a day of celebration. All right. Well, off they go. Zales, Atticus, Poseidon, and Nostalgia, because Nostalgia still does want to see planet Earth. And so with them, they go to see, to go back to planet Earth. Okay. So they're heading back to planet Earth, and as they're heading back, Atticus is really concerned about what is possible, what Gundrel Michael has planned. And So he's trying to get the ship to go as fast as it can to catch up with him. Gundro Michael has lost his power to use lava, but that doesn't mean he has other powers. He doesn't have other powers. He has other powers. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. And so he goes back to planet Earth, and he's thinking to himself, that Atticus, he thinks he can disrupt my plans? Well, I'll make sure he pays. I'll make sure he pays. Definitely. He lands on planet Earth, and Gundro Michael has this special power where if he can get close enough to a human and whisper in your ear, then he can control what you do. So he lands on the planet, he looks for the most powerful person he can, and he notices this powerful country, United States of America. He decides he's going to talk to the leader of that country. So he tries to go to this White House. Of course, he can't just walk in, so as he tries to get walks in, he gets kicked out by the Secret Service. And as he's getting kicked out, the president is sort of leaving to do something, and he's yelling at the president. He's like, Mr. President, I have some great ideas for you. I know that your people don't like you very much right now, and I can help you. And then he gets kicked out. Well, the president knew that that was actually true, that at that moment, no one really liked the president. So he thought to himself, he's like, all right, well, it can't hurt to hear what this guy has. He's like, what do you got for me? And Gundro Michael yells, well, what if you gave everyone, like, something to look forward to, like popcorn night every Monday, just everyone gets popcorn, you guys watch movies or something like that. And the president's like, that's stupid. But he decided to try it. So he tried it, and it boosted his ratings. And so he's like, all right. And so Gundro Michael comes back. He's like, all right, what about a new thing? What about you give everyone, like, so much money so that they can buy clothes or food or whatever. Just free money. And the president's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. He's like, just try it. So he tries it, and it worked. Again, the boost of the ratings, the presidential ratings went up. And so then he's like, all right, Gundro Michael, you come here. I like you. I like what you're thinking. And Gundro Michael's like, excellent. Sir, I've got another idea that's really great, but I don't want anyone else to hear it. I just want you to hear it. And the president's like, okay, come here. And so the Gundro Michael leans in and he whispers in the president's ear, I think it would be a good idea if you made all the children in the world slaves. Now, the reason Gundro Michael chose this is because he knew that as soon as the president would make this announcement, that it wouldn't just be the country that would be in chaos. The whole world would be listening to him. And half of the world would be like, he's the president. He knows what he's doing. Let's do this. And the other half would be, no way. This is stupid. You're not touching my kids. And this chaos would break out. This war would break out, not country to country, but person to person. And that's exactly what happened. War started breaking out as soon as the president made this speech. War broke out, and person to person was having war and fighting each other, trying to protect their child or take the children. And Atticus and Zales and Poseidon saw this madness carrying on. And as soon as they did, Atticus started getting angry because he's listening into the broadcast of what's going on, and he knew that Gundro Michael was behind it. He started getting angry. He's like, stop the ship. And Zales was like, we're not in Seattle yet. He's like, I don't care, stop the ship. And so they stop the ship, and he drops out of the ship in a city called Chicago. And in this city, there's like policemen that are actually have decided to follow the president. They're taking kids as into the jails and things like that. And so Atticus lands, and he's so angry. He cannot believe that somebody is going to be so cruel as to hurt an innocent child, that his eyes start getting red, and he starts getting filled with rage, and he starts knocking these policemen back to free the kids, but he's not doing it in a way that he used to. He used to do things so that he would never kill anyone, just maybe injure them so that they couldn't do it. But he's not doing that. He's getting so angry, he can't think clearly, and he's hurting them in places that could be mortal, that could be deadly. And so he's hurting these policemen, and he's freeing the kids. He's getting all the kids free. They're running back to their homes. But Atticus is doing this fighting, and Zales and Poseidon are like, Atticus, come on, get back to the ship. And Atticus is like, no, go get Zeus, tell him what's going on, and I'll meet you in Seattle. And they're like, no. And Zales is like, no, you need my help. And he's like, I don't need your help. I got this covered. And she's like, okay, Atticus, you got to be careful with what you're doing. And Atticus is like, I don't care right now, Zales. I don't care. Go back to Seattle. I'll be there. And so they go back to Seattle, and Atticus stays in Chicago to fight. And he's fighting for a long time. I mean, he's fighting for a good 12 hours. And I don't know if you've ever, like, worked out for 12 hours, but that's a lot of time for him to be, moving around and fighting to free the kids. But there's a lot of kids in Chicago and a lot of policemen. So he's doing this fight, and finally, after so long, the very weariness, the very tiredness of him gets the better of him, and slowly he's pulling himself out of this rage that he was starting to feel. And as he pulled himself out of this rage, he realized what he was doing. The policemen he was leaving behind that could die, and even though they weren't people that he had trusted or thought were good people, he realized what he was doing, and he sort of snapped himself out of it. But by that time, the militia, the National Guard, that's the army that's inside of the state, they had started gathering around. And so Atticus realized he didn't have a way to escape. So he either had to fight his way out and possibly kill people to do that, or to surrender and to just go with them to jail or wherever it was they were going to take him. And so he decided he was going to surrender and just go to jail and not hurt anyone. All right, that has been part 8 of the Adventures of Atticus story. Hope you're enjoying it, and yes, hope you're enjoying it as much as I enjoy telling it. Join us tomorrow for part 9, and have a great day.